Whoa, whoa. Hey, who's around me right now? Who's around me?
Picking on Suicide Squad feels less like beating a dead horse and more like desecrating a grave. But as it's been 4 years since this movie died, I feel like enough time has passed where I can dig up the remains and not upset anyone. People don't come to pay their respects much these days with lockdown being in place, and also people don't care anymore. But as I was examining this decaying sack of organs in my post-mortem, I found some things which I don't think anyone has commented on yet. From insignificant things like being told Harley Quinn is fearless and then a second later she's screaming in fear because she can't swim.
She's crazier than him and more fearless.
Couldn't.
To big, nasty things which have had a lasting impact on our culture. Yeah, we're going to talk about this topic later for sure. In this episode, we are going to be going through the story of this movie in my typical plot holes fashion, covering the whole movie plot start to finish while skipping over the stuff I don't care about. But you see, the problem with this episode is, typically speaking, the movies I cover have enough story content within that I can actually skip over. Typically speaking, there's some side characters who don't get much development, so those characters can be pushed to the side. But with Suicide Squad, everyone is one of those disposable side characters. The only character who gets anywhere near enough screen time to be considered a protagonist is Harley Quinn's arse cheeks. So we'll begin the story of Suicide Squad, but from the perspective of Harley Quinn's arse. Harley Quinn's arse is currently serving jail time, but she's in a much nicer prison cell than Deadshot, all because she seduces guards to get what she wants. And every time Harley's tongue scrapes against these prison bars, Harley's arse is subjected to tetanus shots. Over the many years of enduring these injections, Harley's arse has turned into a dangerous monster, and that's why she should never be allowed out of prison. Alright, look, this joke was a horrible idea. We're going to go back to my normal storytelling technique. The whole point of Suicide Squad is for this collection of outcast DC characters to be thrown together so they can take down an evil witch and save the world. In order for this to happen, the military has to approve the release of all these characters from prison. But who are these characters and what naughty crimes have they committed? Let's take a look at them in order from least sexy to most sexy. Captain Boomerang, a bank robber with a cool name and a metallic boomerang which seldom comes back to him after he throws it. That superpower will definitely come in handy later on. Katana. This is Katana. I would advise not being killed by her, and I've also advised her not to kill anyone in the main plot of the movie. Sure, we'll show her killing people in the flashback sequence, but to have her killing anyone of any significance in the main story would just kind of be silly. Let's not do that. When Katana's being introduced, and this is just a small side note, but is it just me, or does Harley Quinn's mouth look unnaturally wide when she says,
Love your perfume. What is that? The stench of death?
Stench of death? Stench of death?
Yeah, this is probably why I'll never be considered a credible movie critic. El Diablo. He's a fire guy. He turns into fire when he wants to destroy some noobs, but it's not something he likes doing because he usually ends up killing people he loves. Out of this group, he's the only one who I feel like has any sort of interesting past. And I mean that sincerely. I would actually love to watch an El Diablo movie. We would have the chance to learn about his gangland upbringing and how he struggles to keep a family together and mostly alive. Also, I'd like to know why he owns a gun when he can literally fire at people. Why is it in the Suicide Squad universe do we have people who have guns and don't need them, and the people who should have guns don't have them? Slipknot. Slipknot's the only guy who didn't get a dedicated introduction. Other people get animated text with sound effects and a bunch of shit flying about. And now here's how they introduce Slipknot.
Here comes Slipknot, the man who can climb anything. Wonderful. Good time, scumbag.
She had a mouth.
I didn't cut anything down. Slipknot's introduction really is only about 10 seconds long. And then before the movie even really begins, he just gets killed off. Why would you bother to include someone on the movie poster who's barely even in the movie? Deadshot. Played by a very bored Will Smith.
What, we some kind of suicide squad?
He's a skilled assassin with a daughter that he wants to raise right and also be a good influence to. But oh no, here he goes killing again. Harley Quinn. Played by Margot Robbie, a talented and beautiful actress who is very well cast for the role. But my god, did they give her the worst dialogue ever.
Huh? What was that? I should kill everyone and escape? Sorry. The voices.
Killer Croc. Another wasted potential. The idea of a half-human crocodile creeping about in the sewers could make for a great movie, but we really don't get to know much about him.
I'm beautiful.
Girls, are you turned on or turned off? Whoa!
This attractive animal has no purpose in the squad. And that's not even me trying to be a dick. His only big moment in the movie is being passed a bomb to throw at the evil witch in the end fight scene. Literally anyone else here could have done that. That's not a unique crocodilian ability. You have a crocodilian man who doesn't do anything uniquely crocodilian. They could have made him have a super powerful bite and therefore be the only thing strong enough to crush the witch's heart or something like that. I've left out the Joker from this list because he doesn't affect the main story at all. Kind of a common theme going here. I'm instead saving him for later after I've gone through the main meat of our story, because how can you have any pudding if you don't eat your meat? Yeah, that joke only works if you know Pink Floyd and that Harley's nickname for Joker is Puddin'. And it's also because I'm a sexist pig and I only see Harley as a piece of meat. The initiator of this Suicide Squad project is this woman here, Amanda Waller. And she's the head of some secret CIA bullshit division. I don't know, she's just got a lot of power in the Pentagon. That's really all you need to know. She convinces the military that the world needs a Suicide Squad as protection, just in case the next superhero goodie decides to become a baddie. Wow, I haven't said the word goodie and baddie since I was 6 years old. There was meant to be one more member of this Suicide Squad, a witch called Enchantress. But instead, she's the villain of this story, and here's how that happened. Enchantress was a spirit concealed within a totem, until an archaeologist came along and snapped it in half. Because that's what an archaeologist does upon discovering buried artifacts. They just fucking break it in two for no reason. The Enchantress's spirit took control of the archaeologist's body, bonding them for life. And for some reason which is never explained, Amanda Waller has the Enchantress's heart strapped in a briefcase next to some cartoonish looking dynamite. So up until now, Amanda has had complete control of the Enchantress. If the Enchantress fucks about, she gets a needle in the heart. If she doesn't do what Amanda commands, she gets a needle in the heart. If Amanda is feeling spiteful with envy looking at Cara Delevingne's rocking body, Amanda temporarily puts her feelings aside to support a fellow strong woman, adding likes to her Instagram, telling her she's beautiful and being there for her when the sun doesn't shine too bright in her life, and then she gets a needle to the heart. Needless to say, the Enchantress gets a bit fed up of being the dog to answer Amanda's whistle. So she gets her heart back and decides to go 100% apocalypse on planet Earth. Well, actually, it's a bit more complicated than that. Amanda stabs her heart in several places when the Enchantress tries to get away, but it's okay because she can actually live without it, so long as her reincarnated brother gives her some monster energy. Yeah. And then near the end of the movie, she gets her actual heart back. Why did she ever need this useless heart when she could have just lived off her brother's boost juice? Well, anyway, into the story comes Colonel Rick Flag, the most patriotic name in the US military since Sergeant Twinkie Eaglegun. He's in charge of keeping the Suicide Squad together and behaving themselves. If any of them try to abandon their given mission, bang goes the implant in their neck. Oh yeah, and that's Slipknot gone, by the way. When you finish crying, we'll move on. Alright, yeah, that's enough time. One remarkably deathless helicopter crash later, the squad dust off the aviation disaster and walk the rest of the way towards the Enchantress, where they will face almost certain death. Because what is a skinny white girl with a bat, a guy who can shoot guns good, and an unreliable boomerang going to do against an actual witch with actual powers? They barely managed to fight their way through these faceless goons. And these goons present about as much threat as the Power Ranger putties. Will Smith, traumatised by this deadly encounter, saw the signs of what's about to come, and he's all like, fuck this, I'm getting a drink before I die. You coming, fellow squaddies? You betcha, Harley says. I know how to make customised cocktails, even though we don't have time for this bullshit as the world is ending. This is the scene where we get some background information on Diablo. It is interesting, but it's not as interesting as the relationship flashbacks between Harley and Joker. And this is interesting not because of the story, that's just kind of stupid. But what is interesting is the lingering culture of Facebook cringe posts. If you haven't already abandoned Facebook, the sinking ship of boomers who just discovered how to use it, and the people who can't be bothered to move on from using it, you'll have no doubt seen something like this shared at one point or another. With me, you get a homie, a lover, a best friend, and a psycho. I am of course talking about the people who equate themselves or their relationships to this version of Harley Quinn and Joker. Now, I see nothing wrong with idolising fictional characters. We all do it to a certain degree. But this specific type of fan is actually damaging themselves by actively pretending that being an unpredictable, emotionally unstable person is fine. Because, you know, they're just like Harley Quinn. And Harley Quinn is so quirky and cool and not like other girls. Equally so, they compare their abusive relationship to the abusive relationship between Harley and Joker. Yeah, it's okay my boyfriend treats me like dirt. He does that because he's just damaged. And I'm his psycho queen. And instead of being honest with myself, I'm just going to share some memes to overcompensate for how shitty my situation is. I don't hate you, I'm just disappointed you turned into everything you said you'd never be by a sexy little psycho bitch. Don't you just love the watermark on this one? You know, it's painfully ironic that the type of person who shares this is usually the most insecure person of all. And the insecurity just speaks volumes when they would rather make a meme about their situation than try and fix it. The same irony applies to the Joker wannabes as well. I know what I'm showing right now is an extreme example, but it illustrates my point. You're pretending to be someone you're not because you're extremely unhappy with who you actually are. You're not a little psycho bitch. You're an average basic bitch. An average person who clearly needs therapy. There's nothing wrong with that. Just go and get therapy. We all need it from time to time. It's this kind of damaging mentality that I directly blame on Suicide Squad. And because it's 4 years since this movie released, and yet I'm still seeing this kind of shit circling around the toilet bowl of social media, that I'm still pissed at this movie. Unfollow Joker and Harley memes, and instead go follow Hausenberg on Facebook, where I share memes pretending that I'm a Peaky Blinder and not one of those soft belly computer shrimps. Normally people make fun of Jared Leto's performance as the Joker, but I don't want to do that to him. The poor boy's had enough. And I know this is less his fault and more the fault of the director, who should have told him that Joker purring is not intimidating and, more importantly, is not the Joker. And yeah, maybe don't put Baby Grows in the same frame as Joker's knife collection. Oh, what, is this Psycho planning for a family now, like Harley's dream shows? Yeah, you can totally imagine this guy wanting to settle down and raise kids. The Enchantress is turning up the power setting of her vacuum cleaner, which has been sucking the city dry of its resources. And because CGI is too much like hard work, the surrounding buildings look absolutely unscathed. Before the squad get to the main boss of this dungeon, they have to take out the trash mobs like her brother. El Diablo gets right on it, transforming into an actual fire god. This is a super interesting element of his bio. Why are we only just learning that he's an actual fire god? Why in the flaming hell is there no Diablo movie? But I guess it's too late now anyway, he's dead. His sacrifice was pretty decent, but I felt nothing because he didn't have anyone to sacrifice himself for. He already killed his family, the ones he loves. So maybe he just wants to die? As the squad approached the Enchantress, she plays some mind games, giving everyone a glimpse into their dream realities, where Harley has a family with Joker. Just no. Colonel Flagg has his girlfriend back. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that the archaeologist who was hijacked by Enchantress is Colonel Flagg's girlfriend. It's a cool part of the story, but again, just wasted potential. We've got about 30 characters to cram into this 2-hour movie, so I understand the limitations, but the problems still exist. Now, I've barely talked about Amanda Waller or Deadshot's backstory with his daughter, and I've done this because, as I said at the start of this episode, there are some things that haven't really been talked about, and I wanted to bring them to light. So these kind of things have to be pushed aside. Here's one example of something I want to bring up. During this epic final fight, Katana says something like Dokulda, which basically means where is she? But the problem is no one can actually understand her. No one there speaks Japanese other than Katana. Isn't communication kind of important when you're part of a team that's trying to save the world?
This is Katana. She's got my back.
Yeah, but how do you know that for sure? Where was we? Colonel Flagg has the Enchantress's now dislodged heart in his hands, and he makes an emotional threat for the Enchantress to let his girlfriend go. But the Enchantress says, "Nah man, she dead anyway, so you can go ahead and kill me, Mr. Man." In all seriousness, I actually quite liked this scene. It had good emotions, good atmosphere, terrible dialogue.
You don't have the balls.
Because this is a superhero movie, of course his girlfriend is still alive. And also, of course, the Joker is still alive, for a surprise reveal at the end. What? Oh, did I mention to forget he died in a helicopter crash earlier? Wow, I'm really bad at this.